Hi, Misha here, and this is the last black box of 2021. A year that I don't think a lot of us are going to be particularly sad to see go. In fact, I just finished packing my last batch of guns to go out. So, yeah, that'll be going. This will be a two-part black box. This one is going to be kind of reflecting back on 2021 and just reflecting back in general. One thing I think I've discovered this year, that one of my ways of handling grief, loss, is reflection, but not in a melancholic way, but it helps me center myself. It helps me find some peace, and it helps me kind of analyze where I have been, where I might be going, and maybe where I went wrong. So I'm going to talk about that. But then in the second part, the next black box after this one, it's going to be looking to the future, talking about that kind of stuff. So, yeah, with that, let's talk about 2021. Oh boy. Dipping all the way back to 2020 for just a minute, a couple of things that are relevant as we get to 2021. The gun buying was still going on pretty hot and heavy last Christmas season. And B, COVID was still very much a thing, and unless you were a muckety-muck in Washington, D.C., a vaccine wasn't available yet. And that's why last Christmas of 2020, my wife and I were stuck here. First Christmas I think I've ever missed being with at least my family to some extent. But yeah, we were quarantined because my wife was rather ill with the coof. I don't know if I had it or not, because I kind of faced an interesting quandary. How would I get tested? She couldn't drive me to get tested. I couldn't ask a friend to come by and expose themselves to get tested. And they weren't doing, door-to-door testing here, and I wasn't able to drive myself. So I just went with it. But we get through. And that gets us into January. And the year certainly started off historically and quite tragically. I think by this point, a year on nearly, we can agree that it was just a bad time. No matter which political side, what you believed, things were extremely stressful and people were at wit's end. And I really can't say I blame them, because my views on the American political system have been very clear, and I am not terribly optimistic about it. And the fact that so many people just wanted to rug sweep instead of trying to make a lasting change and whatnot is evidence of that. Then again, maybe we shouldn't have fucking people in their 80s running this country. Just a crazy thought. Moving on. So that happened, and the buying was continued at quite a good clip. And of course, then the vaccine thing started up, the controversy over that, because this year has been literally one thing after another. On the positive side, I did get to do a belated Christmas with my family, including still my father, towards the end of January. Sales were good. And this is when I first was looking to buy quite a large quantity of Swiss guns from JDI. In the past, I've bought 5, 6, maybe 10, but maybe more, because Dave was planning a very substantial import because uncertainty over import regs. So there's kind of where we are. So January was a lot of up and downs. We did also get some Swiss guns in. This is when the 5.52s came in finally. They were quite a bit late. In fact, they were 2 years in the making, but they did come. And so let's move into February. February started off okay. Sales are still good. And the PE90s came in from Switzerland. And in this month, we finally got the mini barrel pistol, something that had been so long anticipated that it looked like it may not happen, and then it just kind of came in. But, you know, the month, it was pretty rough. My father was in the hospital, got out, and we were planning to go down and see them. But literally the day we were, it was when the temperature plummeted here and it snowed. And it got very cold throughout this region. Everyone can remember the events in Texas, losing power. Well, we didn't lose power up here, although it was a bit touch and go at times, because it delved down to 15 below zero Fahrenheit. So we weren't able to do that. It didn't seem like such a big deal until he passed away the next week. And of course then it did seem like a big deal. And enough said about that, but that tells you how the end of February went for me and family. And of course the funeral was at the very beginning of March. So yeah, we move into March of 2021. And you can imagine how the first couple of weeks were for me. On the positive side of things, more barrels did come in. The 7.62x39 rifle first, and then the 5.56 rifle. Finally, the Archer was effectively back, which a lot of people were happy with. We also started seeing more WBPs this year. And this is when the Swiss orders really kind of got going big, and commitments were taken, deposits were taken. And at that time, honestly speaking with him, Dave really did think this could be it. Because with the new administration and a lot of their talk about nominating old Chippy to be director of the ATF, and just noises the ATF have been making since late summer of 2020, no one really knew their stance on anything. In fact, that's one of the things even now as we move into January of 2022, we don't know how they're going to interpret importation of pistols now or pistol arm braces. People might think they know which direction they're going to lean, but the truth is, I don't even think they know for sure yet. Anyway, that was March. And it did give me something to look forward to and kind of work on. And I did my best to get back to work. And of course, another thing that happened in that month was the infamous FEG Hungarian HD18 debacle, which was a whole thing in and of itself with a lot of back and forth. 2021 just kind of seemed to be the year of controversy and the year of forum posts and going back and forth and lots of things being stated and restated and then countered and debunked and back and forth, and that was amongst one of the more memorable ones of the recent gun thing. And the thing is, thinking back right now, I don't remember much of April. Gun sales are still going fine. Waiting on the Swiss guns. They were supposed to be in at the end of April. Well, that didn't quite happen, but kind of just waiting on those. And just trying to live. By this point, vaccines were starting to circulate around for people who wanted them. Of course, that just ramped up the controversy surrounding those, one way or the other. But it was probably one of the bigger talks now that they were available. And with that, we move into May. And my May was pretty much, dealing with those Swiss guns. I'm not going to say how many I bought, but it was me scraping together all I could. And as I said in a Blackbox back then, the idea was to make enough, work enough there to pay off our house. and ordered several. So much so that it was more than worth it for us to drive down to JDI and pick them up, which we did, and met Dave and did the interview with Dave, which was great. It was a lot of fun going down there, and of course selling them was a lot of work, but pretty much paid off. The gun sales were still doing okay at this point, but starting to slow down a bit in May of 2021. It's also at this point that it became clear that Jay was going off in his own direction. He had kind of told me in late March that he was going to back off a bit, but thought he would still do Q&As, go shooting. It didn't pan out that way. He has been invited multiple times to do Q&As or to go shooting, and has not taken that up. And now we're over half a year past that, so yeah, it is what it is. But May was pretty active, and that pretty much just carried over into June. June is when the gun market really started to falter. I didn't notice it as soon as vendors that were more relying on ARs and AKs, but the Swiss guns were still selling well, but I did notice it. Things started to calm down a bit. On the other hand, Memorial Day, okay, technically still May, but was when we went out to the cabin and started doing some cabin videos with Jay Rowe. He started helping me, and that was good. And kind of moved into summer. July was much the same as June for me. Went out again for the 4th of July. The Zastava M90s finally came in. That was a good thing. And now finally the gun market has slowed down. At this point, I'm relieved, frankly. It had been going full bore for over a year. Sales really picked up in March, April of 2020, and while it was good, it was exhausting. It was pretty well done. So mostly what I did at the end of July was rest up a bit, travel to see family as much as I could, take care of some personal, private matters, and just try to relax and do some videos for this channel here or more. Focus on that. I was still selling more than a few guns a week, but I was happy for the rest. But of course, there had to be more furors and more controversies. Moving into August, we have the Russian ammo ban, as we come to know it. And of course, more political scandals, controversies, yada, yada, yada. Things that are honestly kind of getting boring to talk about, if you feel me. But the ammo ban did spur people to really start hoarding ammo. And to be honest, it was something that was pretty much inevitable. The U.S. and Russia have been butting heads more and more frequently for years now, really since even the Bush administration. So it's just same thing, different day. We had the Kalashnikov concern, the Izhmash ban in 2014. We had the Molot ban in 2017, and now we had this in 2021. But of course, it wasn't an outright ban. They left current open import permits, open. There's a lot of caveats and things. Long story short, ammo from a lot of sources won't dry up until next year, which hopefully will give time for alternative ammo sources to come in. That said, the price of ammo will probably never be down to 10 cents around again, or even 20 cents around. Those days are sadly over, which has put pay to a lot of things like the AK Operators Union 5,000 round test, because if $1 buys you maybe 3 rounds if you're lucky, Yeah, that makes it really hard to do such a test. Do the math. Yeah. Plus everything else that it costs. And we move in, and this is when there's another batch of Swiss guns kind of declared off. The 5.51s, 350 standard editions, 50 anniversaries. Also a small batch of PE90s, and a small batch of 5.53s with Doctors, and a few other things besides too, but those are the main ones. And they were projected to be in by October, November, and so kind of took the money that I just made from selling, and yeah, did that. Of course, moving into September, which is actually the month of our wedding anniversary, that's when we did pay off the house. It was kind of getting to the point where if we didn't pay it off, it was going to have to, refinance at the end of the time period. But it was so little left on it, and even before all this, it's not like we made, $80,000 and did. We'd already been paying it off. So, but it really helped, and that was a good feeling to kind of get that big bill out of the way. And it turned out really to be a good turn of fate because of things that happened with my wife's work as we moved into October. And this month, my wife took a new job. And this isn't something she's keen on. I know some people, they move from job to job to job, and I appreciate the reasons why. That's not her way. She'd rather just stay at a job. That's just how she is, okay? Everyone's different. But what happened here kind of dated back to that summer when we were talking with the bank about paying things off. Loan officer that I'd known ever since I was a kid, we grew up in the same town, had mentioned if she'd ever thought about working at the bank and whatnot, because that's what she did in her previous job. Well, long story short, in September she started putting in applications. Some stuff had gone on at her current job that wasn't really good. Now, to be fair, she kept her job all throughout COVID. She was never furloughed. She was never laid off. She wasn't even made to work from home. So we did good. But, you can read the writing on the wall, and in a lot of the places they were going to automation. And they kept assuring her that she would have a job, yada yada. But she kept putting in applications, and one place really kind of jumped on her from the beginning. Well, we waited, had a few other offers come in, and she decided to take this one, and that happened in October. And her previous job, previous employer said, I told her to make sure when you leave, no hard feelings, you want to keep them in your good graces for reference purposes. And they did. They told her, well, what can we do to keep you to stay here? And she showed them what the new place was offering, benefits and all that. And they said, well, we can't match that, so good luck. If you ever you have a job here, you can come back. So she took the new job. And then on November 1st, the old company pretty much just closed up. The company itself didn't close, but all their manned locations here in all of Northwest Arkansas, even southern Missouri, closed. So if she had stayed there even a month longer, she would have been without work by December 1st, because they announced it on November 1st. And funnily enough, in a dark way, the guy who told us she always had a job there was he himself looking for a new position. The good news is pretty much all of her colleagues too saw the writing on the wall, and so everyone pretty much got out. There was really no one left there anyway, so it all worked out. And knock on wood, she seems to really be liking the new job, and that's good, because by this point the gun market is kind of going by October. Now part of it is gun broker. And now that they're doing taxes, now that they're doing the compliance fee, I did a Blackbox on that, they're really feeing people out. And the new format of the website is an utter atrocious mess that I haven't talked to one single person yet that likes. But hell, whatever. Nothing lasts forever, right, guys? So we move into November, my birthday month. And of course, Thanksgiving. We did get down and see family for Thanksgiving. And the The batch of Swiss guns was actually slated to come in right before Thanksgiving. As it turned out, they came in right after. So we kind of ended November by a second trip down to JDI, mostly to get 5.51s, but also a few other things. But it was a good trip. And a little more relaxed this time, a little less money on the table. Plus, the first time I was pretty nervous. It was a lot of money, a lot of business risk. This time, well, of course, it was a business, risk. It was a measured one. It wasn't all my eggs in one basket. If the Swiss thing had blown up, that could have really not worked out well for me back in May, June, but it did. But sometimes you just have to take those calculated risks in life. This time, it was a major deal. It is a major deal, but more guarded there, I should say. Thanksgiving went well enough. It's kind of life is starting to seem a little I'm sure there was some political controversy or other at this point, but at this point I'm really not paying attention, because if there isn't one, someone will stir one up. The other thing I'll say is I think everyone's at least everyone I know is pretty happy with how the Rittenhouse thing went, ultimately. Well, yeah. But I never really did do a black box on that because I didn't really know what to say. I wasn't an expert. Couldn't view the video footage myself, but I thought it was pretty clear cut. But that's what I thought. But I think everyone around here was happy with how that turned out, including family and friends. And now all this year, there have been private things with my family going on, some different types of things, but I don't like sharing that much detail here. It did continue to be a rough year, as you can imagine, for the family. And that gets us to our final month, the month I'm still in right now, although barely, as we get rid of this year finally. December 2021. Talked with Atlantic Firearms, and they said they knew coming into this month that they knew gun sales would be lower than usual for the holiday season. But even they were surprised just how low they were. Yeah, by this point the market really has bottomed out, especially for ARs. Even AKs have really calmed down. We have had a few new guns. We got to talk about the mini Jack pistol with a machined receiver. And we got to talk about the Jack rifle, finally. With the Swiss guns in, of course, we got to sell those. Always a good thing. And a few new AUGs. Finally saw some Steyr AUGs for the first time. And, I've been doing tank videos in the last couple of months. Started off with Russian. Doing British right now, around these black boxes. Went home for Christmas, of course. That was good and bad in equal measures. But what do? You got to get through it. And here we are. I don't trust this year. Even though I'm recording this in the morning of the last day of the year has been so up and down and unpredictable from literally day one. I don't know. Who knows? There's something could happen at the 11th hour, literally. So we'll see. We will see. Hopefully not, though. Hopefully we've all earned a little bit of respite. And it hasn't just been a year of completely bad. But it's just been a year that you don't know what you're going to be greeted with when you wake up in the day. It's just been so much. I feel like so much has been lost, or so much has changed this year. 2020 was almost a year in stasis, where not much changed at all. And then 2021, nothing seems to have stayed the same. Again, not always a change for the bad, but everything changed. I'm not sure how much longer I'll be selling on Gunbroker. I plan on keeping my FFL, but I don't know how much longer that'll be my primary income. I don't know. The gun market, the way it is, and the way things are changing, having lost several distributors over the last couple of years, I just don't know. It's such uncertainty. And that's terrifying, but it's also a little exciting or exhilarating, because the unknown doesn't have to necessarily mean bad. It's just literally that, unknown. But like I said at the beginning of this video, I do find that my way of dealing with grief and loss is to be reflective. Try not to get mad or upset, but try to reflect back and appreciate what I did have, even if it's gone. And realize that's life. That just because something's gone now doesn't mean it's gone forever. We don't lose things completely. Things aren't erased. What we had is still with us. Our past is still our past. And why we're here at this point in the present is an arbitrary point. I mean, I don't know, I guess I do view time and life as, in the grand scale of things, outside of itself. Time is just a part of it. But why are we here at this one point? Because that's where we're at. The next moment is the next moment, and on and on. But the other moments we've been through still exist. I don't know. This is kind of how I view things. So in a way, nothing's lost. It's just we move on. We're in a book, turning the page. We're in a play, we move on to the next scene. And it's helped me deal with a lot of stuff this year. And I don't know what 2022 will have. I really don't. But I know that 2020 and 2021 were just turmoil. I do feel like, reflecting back, the last time life seemed normal was the holiday season of 2019. It seems like after that, everything just kind of went. I remember the visiting family and stuff. There was just the ever so faint talk about this thing called COVID then. And of course, everyone knew the 2020 election was coming up. I think at that point, everyone assumed the current president would remain in for another 4 years. I don't know. Kind of seemed to be the talk. Life seemed normal-ish. Of course, there were problems. There's always problems in life. But people people were together. Things were happening. And then after like January of 2020, things just went bonkers. Here, things locked down at the beginning of March, like March 3rd to March 6th of 2020. February, some places locked down a little earlier than us. And and then the whole adventure, and I don't mean that necessarily in a positive way, but it was an adventure in the more traditional Greek meaning of the phrase, began. I don't know. I guess I am grateful for having been able to see my father one time before, but I think part of me will always be angry that because of COVID I was robbed the last year of his life. That really upsets me, and something I've got to deal with, because it's just how the cookie crumbled. And I know I'm not alone. I know a lot of people got stuck in a lot of places and couldn't be with a lot of loved ones in that year. On the other hand, again, I kept my job, my wife kept hers, so that is something to be grateful for. And that's what I try to do when I reflect back. It is simply what it is. But we will see where 2022 takes us. But that'll be the next video. I'll reminisce about some New Year's and some fun and hopes for the future. I am happy to close the last page, the cover on this year's book, and put it in the dustbin. We survived, those of us that are here. But unfortunately, a lot of people didn't make it through the journey. I'm not necessarily just saying COVID. I'm just saying that it seems like a lot of people I know lost a lot of close loved ones in the last 2 years. And we will never forget them, but we eventually do have to move on with life. It's what we have to do, and it's what they would want. And with that, I hope everyone is gearing up for a good New Year's Eve, either a big party or just a restful evening. I think we'll probably go restful evening. Hope everyone is safe and healthy, has a good time, whatever you choose to do, and appreciate all your support on this channel, on Patreon, on the main Mishaco channel. That's another one. I mean, it was tough to keep Mishaco going in 2021, but did it somehow, and we'll continue to keep doing it as best I can. So I sincerely thank you, and with that, this is Misha signing off for the last time of this godforsaken year, 2021.